Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with reTHINK Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode number 65. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at reTHINK Coaching, and I want to thank you for being here. Truly, time is our most valuable asset, and the fact that you're willing to invest your time with me truly does mean a lot, and I appreciate you being here. I'm always excited to talk to you about things that I am experiencing in my coaching world with real life clients, because the whole intention of this podcast is to help you, the listener, to achieve the life that they want or the business that they want. And to do that through the frame of healthy thinking, healthy thoughts, healthy mindset, removing limiting beliefs, positioning you to experience really the life and business that you desire and not experiencing one by default. Now, something that has come up a bit as of late in a lot of the conversations I'm having, and I can tell it's happening when I ask a client a question, and it's a fairly direct or straightforward question that shouldn't require an exorbitant amount of time to make the decision. Yet I'm feeling that the question is one of many that they have had to face that day or that week or that month, and they may be in a place of decision overwhelm. I know it's happened to me, and it happens often because as entrepreneurs, and especially if you're an entrepreneur of a smaller company, meaning it's just you, maybe you and an admin, you don't have the depth of staff or team members that you can leverage to. A lot of the decisions fall on your shoulder. And the amount of decisions that we have to make on the daily to keep our business running is overwhelming. The amount of decisions that we just need to make in our everyday life. So if you're finding yourself being a little overwhelmed and experiencing, decision overload, I just want you to know you're not alone. Now, it's really important for us to get out of that. It's really important for us to get out of that overload so that we can make better decisions and that we can filter through some of the unnecessary decisions that is grabbing our attention at the moment. One of my favorite things is I think about the word decide, right? And I compare it to other words that end in side. So decide, simple like a word like pesticide, right? Pesticide is the killing off of insects. Homicide is the killing off of a person. Genocide is the killing off of a group of people. And I know these are extremes, and I want you to think about the word decide. When I think about that compared to the other sides, I feel like making a decision or to decide is killing off all other options. You're picking one thing that can move you and your business forward towards your goals and your life. You're grabbing a decision and you're deciding. And I love just keeping it simple to know that a decision is for a reason of eliminating other options and picking the one that best suits you. So keep that in mind as we move through today's discussion. I know for myself, I love that. When I make a decision, I feel really good about it. I've eliminated a lot of other things that are unnecessary, and I can keep my focus on where it needs to be. Now, decision overload, gosh, the impact can be big. It can really put you in a place of where your brain is just overloaded with so many options. And sadly, when you're in that, it can lead to confusion, it can lead to stress, it can lead to just plain difficulty in making a decision. I've worked with some people that suffer from this, and they cannot make the simplest of decisions in that moment because they are so overwhelmed by all of the decisions that they must be making. So that's my definition of decision overload, is when there's just so much and it's causing you to take more time, or it's causing you to be stressed, or it's causing you to be confused and experience difficulty in making a decision. Now, In the world of real estate, my goodness, team, I've been an agent since 2001 and I've coached for 14 years. And I will say, as real estate agents, professionals, entrepreneurs, and if you run a team, the number of decisions that you need to make on the daily is huge. From how do you navigate a contract? What's the best approach to take for your client to win this? What homes should I show the client? What do I need to do to help my team grow? The daily peppering of things that you must decide on is really big in the real estate lane. And I just want to acknowledge that for a moment, that if you really stopped and wrote down all of the questions and all of the things that you're being required to make a decision on for the day, I think you would understand why we may have some decision overwhelm or decision overload. Now, how can you tell if you're experiencing this? Number one is decision fatigue will happen and you'll start to realize that the quality of your decisions are not great. And one of my telltale signs of that is if I make a decision about something and then dang, if in 24 hours I don't have to redecide about it because the decision I made was pretty crappy. And I treated it just like a to-do or a task that I just needed to get done and move on. So I just made a quick knee-jerk reaction or quick decision to check the box that it's done. 9 times out of 10, that will come back to haunt me in 24, 48, or 72 hours because it wasn't a quality decision. So decision fatigue happens when the quality of your decisions deteriorate. And you can feel mentally exhausted. Again, you can feel some indecision. You can feel impulsive, like, let's just do it. And you're not allowing your brain to think through the entire process. That to me is a very dangerous place to be because we're firing off in that those decisions can cost you money. Those decisions can cost you business. Those decisions can run your team off. And so be aware when you're just making a decision for the sake of making the decision and you're not really giving it the attention that it deserves and the strategy and thought behind making that decision. Also, just knowing that sometimes there's a process to making a decision. So I want to talk to you about this. Like implementing a decision-making framework is one of the ways that I personally make sure that the decision I'm involved in that moment is really what I need to be involved in at that moment. And I look at a framework. So I take a look at my business and I know to get to my goal, there's one key behavior, one key activity that I must do. I must do it to get to that goal. Now, everything else is important, maybe not as equally as important, but there's other important elements. But I know for sure if I focus on the one thing that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary, then I'm in the right lane. And so when I'm being peppered with decisions, I look at what is the question or what is the thing that I have to make a decision around. And I ask myself, does it impact my one thing? Is it impacting my one thing? And if it's not, I may delay that decision. I may give myself permission to say, that's not critical right now, and look at it and say, when do I need to make that decision? Is it tomorrow? Is it a week from now? Could it be a month from now? And I start deflecting some things so I don't overwhelm my brain with decision on things that are not important in the moment. So I boil it all down to the one thing. And I do this when I'm in a decision overwhelm. Now, sometimes I'm not in decision overwhelm, but I'll make a decision about something that doesn't impact my one thing, and it probably could have waited, but I'm in the space that I can make that decision in a healthy place, and I'll do it. This is only if you're feeling yourself overwhelmed that I would recommend that you just drill down to your one thing and see if the decision you're making impacts that one thing immediately, yes or no. If it doesn't, delay it. Move it off your plate and keep moving forward. The other thing is, which I think is super, super important, is sometimes we have to make peace with the decisions we made if we made them in a way that we feel like they were good. And I will watch this happen. And I used to be like this. I used to fear making a decision that I was going to make the wrong one. So I would think I had the solution and then I would sit on it and I would what if, shoulda, coulda, woulda myself to death. And I would end up just running in a circle over and over because the decision I wanted to make could be counteracted by all of these catastrophic thoughts I was having, or what might happen if this went wrong. And I want you to just embrace the fact that 9 times out of 10, a decision you're going to make, if you pause long enough to really think about the impact of that decision, will be good enough. And some decisions, that's all it takes. Is this good enough? Is this good enough to move me forward? Is this good enough to take care of my team? Is this good enough to make sure that my consumer, my client is protected? Sometimes we have to make peace with good enough, and that not every single decision we make is going to be phenomenal or earth-shattering or the thing that changes everything. Sometimes we have to be okay with good enough and ask ourselves, is this a way for me to be a little bit more flexible? And is this a way that still moves me forward, that removes some of the stress from my world because I've made a decision that I am comfortable with? The other thing that I love to do, and again, this is something that I find myself doing when I'm in decision overload, decision overwhelm, is I have created a ritual or a habit, a practice that I can use to help me with my decision-making process. And it helps me streamline some of the choices that I make. And it also helps me reduce that pressure that I might feel if I've got a lot going on. So I've already shared one of the things that I will do is I'm a pen and paper guy. I don't know if it's just how I came up in the business world. I love pen and paper. So I always, if you look at my desk, there's several notebooks. And if I've got to make an important decision and I'm feeling myself in a space of overwhelm, I will grab a piece of paper and I will write at the top of it my one thing. And then I will sit with the question or the thing that needs to be answered. And I will sit with it and say, how impactful is this on my one thing? And I write it out on a scale of 0 to 10. Where is it? If it's a 5, it's not that impactful. Then I know immediately I can postpone that decision. Now, it might be postponing it from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. that decision needs to be made today, but it helps me put things in order. If I've got a bunch of decisions that need to be made, I'm going to write them all out and I'm going to scale them on a scale of 0, least impactful, to 10, most impactful. And when I'm done, I'm going to start with the highest number first. So if a decision I need to make is a 9 out of 10, and then everything else is a 8, a 7, a 6, a 5, I'm starting with that highest number and I'm giving that my bandwidth. And what I find happens a lot is when you make that decision for that most important thing, the other decisions solve themselves. Magically, it happens. And all of a sudden, they're not on your plate anymore because that one thing resolved 10 things. So that's what I would say is create a decision-making ritual or routine for yourself. Mine is going to always involve just ranking and then attacking in an order of most important to least important. Now, sometimes it doesn't clear it up, but I've got to still make that decision. But I'm giving my energy and attention to the one that's the most impactful. So decision overload is a real deal thing. And I've seen it take people to their knees and to knock them out of commission in their business and their life simply because they allowed themselves to stay in overwhelm. So just remember, number one, know that it's the real thing. Know that it's the real thing. And the cool thing about deciding is that you're going to kill off all other options and that you're going to give your brain a clear path on where you're going. I think that is one of the best things that you can do because it's like the parting of the sea, right? I make that decision, I kill off all other options, and now I know the direction I'm headed. And it makes the steps forward so much clearer. Number two, you may not know your indecision overwhelm, but remember, if you find yourself making some not so stellar decisions and they're coming back to visit you again in a short amount of time, it's because you're making decisions you kind of knee-jerk reaction to. You're not giving them the attention they really deserve. It's more impulsive. It's more because you're just exhausted and you just want to get it off your plate. So if you find some of the decisions you're making are not serving you well or your customer or your team, chances are you're in decision fatigue and decision overwhelm. So start to acknowledge and recognize those signs. Come up with your decision-making framework. Mine's simple. And it has served me really, really well. And that is the rating of all the things that I need to decide that day for my business. And stuff is going to come up, and I have that sheet in front of me, and I can add it to the list, and I can score it pretty quickly. And I'm like, okay, that's the 2. I do not need to worry about that right now. My decision-making framework has worked brilliantly for me. It may not be what needs to work for you, but having a system, I will tell you, for me has been such an amazing thing, because I know I have a path forward. I know I have a way out of decision overwhelm. I know I've got a way out. It's my decision-making framework. Also, just embracing that some of those decisions, if I rated them a 4 or a 5 or a 6 or a lower number, anything really lower than 7, that sometimes a decision that is good enough for those lower rated items is good enough. And embracing that, I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, I know a lot of us as entrepreneurs strive for perfection because our livelihood depends on it. Our income depends on it. There's a lot of things riding on the decisions that we make. But if we pay attention by knowing the most important thing and making the decisions in that lane first, good enough sometimes is perfect. And that was a hard one for me personally to swallow and to accept. Yet it's been very freeing and liberating. It's been amazingly clearing the space for me to give my energy and attention to the bigger decisions that need to be made. So good enough sometimes is exactly what it is. Good enough. The rituals, the awareness, all of that is really, really, really important. We're at a time of year right now that a lot of us are doing business planning, and it's requiring us to make some decisions from what is my goal, what is my vision for my upcoming year or years, and how am I going to get there? So we're putting ourselves right now at this time of year in a place that we're having to make a lot of decisions. And I am noticing it amongst the clients that I coach and that are in my group programs and that are in some of the masterminds that I run, that it has become this place of paralysis for people. And I don't want that to happen to you. Because when that happens, we take away our power. When you're not able to kill off all other options, you are flooding your mind with overwhelming choices. And that just does not serve you now or ever. So pay attention. Some of us, I know for myself, a lot of this comes down to, and I know this is going to sound really, really strange, but a lot of this comes down to how I'm managing my day. That my time blocks are there, that I'm protecting my one thing, that I'm able to make decisions based upon my actions for the day a lot easier. And at the end of the day, I feel really good about the choices that I've made because I feel very confident that they're moving me forward. So take some time, my friends. 'Tis the season for decision overwhelm. It really can happen at any time. It really can. For my real estate agent friends, I remember what it was like. We would sell a lot of homes per month, and the decision structure that has to go into that alone is a lot of decisions. I will say one thing that really helped me in my decision-making process when I was in production and I was selling at a really high level were checklists. That just kept things very simple, and I knew what I needed to do, and it prevented some of those peppering of questions coming in because I knew I was on track with my checklist. So that might be another tool to keep you out of decision overwhelm, is that you're following the checklist so you know you're doing all the critical activities, meeting the critical deadlines, the critical dates. You're protecting you, you're protecting your company, and you're protecting your client. That is another way to look at things when you're making a decision is, you look at it as a three-legged stool. Is it protecting my client? Is it protecting my company? And is it a profitable decision? And that is a third way that I will assess a decision that I want to make. Is it good for the client? Is it good for the company? And is it going to support us being a profitable company? Because we're not in this for not for profit. So my decision-making process, where I will dump it all out, rate it. I will have checklists for different things that need to be done so I feel comfortable, and I'm having to make less decisions because it's keeping me in a really powerful workflow. And then the three-legged stool question: is it good for the client? Is it good for the company? And is it profitable? Those are some really simple ways to pull yourself out of decision overwhelm. and help you get back on track. So as always, if you need anything, please reach out. It's a real deal, team. And I don't want to make light of it. I don't want to make light of the fact that this happens often. And if you're struggling with this and you're just really needing some additional help, please reach out. Tony@rethinkcoaching.com is my email address. You go to our website, rethinkcoaching.com. There's a box that will pop up that you can put in your information, and you can register for a free 1-hour strategy call with me. I will help you at no cost. It's free. So if you're stuck in a place of decision overwhelm and you just need some help getting out, make one decision today, and that would be to register for a free call. And I will be more than happy to get you a link to my calendar, get you on the schedule, and help you move forward with your goals and your decisions. So I appreciate y'all being here. Go make it a great week. We will see you all next week. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.